Bene scripsisti me Thoma, quam mercedam accipies. You have written well of me, Thomas. What do you want as a reward? Jesus spoke these words to St. Thomas Aquinas after his completion of one of the greatest theological works in church history, the Summa Theologiae. The creator of the universe granting a wish to him like a genie in a bottle. So if the tables were turned, what would you say? Would you ask for youth, hair, money? Or as I walk around Ridley Park, maybe some of you would ask for central air. I want to share with you Thomas's response because it's surprising. But to appreciate it, first you have to know where Thomas comes from. He was born in a castle to a noble family in 13th century Italy. All that to say, money and power flowed naturally to him by circumstances. And although life was set up for him for total success, he decided to carve out a different path. And he was willing to leave all of this to join a religious community. Now, his family was very upset at this decision, so he did what any of us would do. They imprisoned him for over a year. And during this year, with Thomas's stubborn refusal to change, they sent him little temptations to see if they could move the needle. So first they sent him a prostitute to tempt him with, shall we say, worldly goods, that he might see what he'd really be giving up as a religious. But Thomas drove her out, and some stories say he did so with a hot poker. And so then they thought, well, if you're going to be a priest, fine, but at least be a diocesan priest, because then we could use our network and influence, make you an archbishop, and that way he would still have influence and power. But this too he declined. Thomas was set on being a Dominican friar. And as a Dominican friar, his intellect towered not only over his peers, but over every figure in church history. He became the greatest scholastic philosopher of all time, shaping Christian thought for centuries, even to our time today. In his passing, he left behind more than 8 million words across 80 different works, which collectively filled 20 volumes. To help appreciate his influence, I'll give you this example. Centuries after his death during the Council of Trent, when all the bishops of the world gathered with the Pope to tackle the greatest threat to the church in her history, they laid on the altar 3 books that would serve as their guiding light. The sacred scriptures, the official decrees by the supreme pontiffs up to that point, and St. Thomas's work, the Summa Theologiae. And so here he is at the peak of his intellectual power, and Jesus is offering him a blank check. Bene scripsisti me Thoma, quam mercedam accipies. And he says, non aliam nisi te Domine. I want nothing but you, Lord. Noble blood, a path to the archbishop, and the pleasures of the world all had been laid before him. And yet, as had always been the case, he sold everything to buy that field, to claim that treasure that he always knew was Jesus Christ. And in this way, he's fulfilling what Jesus intends by the parables that we heard in the gospel. And so I hold him before you, as the church does, as a model for the Christian life. But I can appreciate if already now in your own hearts, a little pushback starts to arise. But Father, is that realistic? Before I answer that, I want to say it's at least not unfair. It makes sense that Jesus would expect that we would treasure him above all else. First of all, he created us, so we owe him our very life. But even more than that, he redeems us. So now we owe him even our eternity. And so for him to assert himself into our life above wealth, ambitions, even the intimate relationships of family is not unjust. It's perfectly just, even if we find it shocking. But where the problem in that mindset lies is, personally, I have found that justice alone is not enough to transform lives. Justice is often felt by us as an external pressure, a kind of rule that we have to bend to even unnaturally. And such a dynamic is something we quickly tire of and then abandon. The truth is, it has to come from within us. It's not what Thomas owes Jesus that drives him. It's what Thomas loves. Thomas loves Jesus more than himself, any temptation of riches, even the biological need for a spouse, which is why, without hesitation, he sacrifices all of these things to possess Christ in his life alone. And as strange as that might sound, as unnatural as that might feel, I ask you, is that really so foreign to your experience? I mean, the truth is, most of us are already participating in this kind of an exercise. Think of the claim that our spouses or our children have on aspects of our life like our calendar, our financial decisions and goals, the relationships we have, who our friends are, who they're not, what we value, our very sense of purpose and meaning in this life. I mean, if you roll back the clock, probably in your own life, there was a time when you were the center of your own universe, doing whatever you want with whomever you wanted, whenever you wanted to do it, burning as much cash as you thought made sense. And yet somewhere along the line, this kind of autonomy was sacrificed, not because we have to, but because we fell in love. A love, whether it's a spouse or a child, that subordinated all other goods to itself, making itself the greatest good of all. In these parables, that's what Jesus is saying. The disciples who are part of God's kingdom love him with this kind of a love. And what moves us to fall in love is first recognizing this is precisely how God loves each of us. Take a moment now and look at the crucifix. Here is a sign, a remembrance that the Father loves you so much, he gave you everything he had, the created universe for you to live in, and his only begotten Son. And here the Son loves you so much, he's choosing you over friendships, over family, even over his future. Because here he dies prematurely, penniless, and without a single possession to his name. And he does it joyfully because he knows that our eternity requires it. So here is a God, here is a lover, here is a spouse who is not asking something of us that he isn't already doing for us. I'll end this thought with this little reflection for your consideration. In his early 50s, nearing the completion of his greatest work, the Summa Theologiae, Thomas had a vision during the celebration of Mass. I don't know what it is he saw, and he never told anybody. But in light of what he saw, he put down his pen and abandoned the work that he had spent years completing. Years of intensive labor, only months away from its end, and he never wrote or dictated another sentence toward it. When he was asked by a religious brother to continue his work, he replied, "All that I have written appears to be as so much straw after the things that have been revealed to me." If 8 million words by the greatest mind in church history can turn to straw in light of Christ's love, then if there is anything in our life that we are clutching to above Christ himself, that's keeping our heart from him, I tell you, is worth even less. The time has come to let it go, to buy that field, to claim that treasure, who is the person Jesus Christ.